Your father works very hard for his money, and you waste it all on records.
Okay, here we are at the second annual Making Vinyl. Hey, they said it couldn't be done. They said it couldn't be done a first time, and here is the second time. And it's bigger. It looks like it's going to be bigger and better than the last time.
Maybe in one of the breaks. There we go. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you.
Hi there, Michael Kremer, F-R-E-M-E-R. I'm Press. Does Press make a difference?
It might already be on your pad.
I imagine it would be by my name.
What's that name? Is that correct?
I'm running 3 panels today, so we found it. Thank God. You found it or no?
No, sorry. I think I
that's
just
somebody
found,
else's?
I found as soon as you said that. You want Motown bags here. Right. So let me try and find yours.
Yes, please.
Just at the end. How do you spell your surname again?
F as in Frank, R-E-M-E-R.
Michael?
Thank God.
And you're on the Motown tour?
Yes, tomorrow, yeah.
So they're just about to start inside.
Okay.
So you might want to join them, but later come and see Sylvia at the end, and she'll give you a ticket for your Motown.
Sylvia at the end, okay.
Just here with the glasses. All right, thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Walk in here for a second.
And then they don't want to spend $20.
Hey now. Okay, more hardware this year.
The co-founders of Making Vinyl. I'm also the guy that's been spamming you for the last 3 months with all of the information about the event. And I'm glad that at least some of you have been reading it. And if you have any questions, of course, I'm going to be around. But I just want to talk a little bit about the event, just real quickly. We have a real packed schedule, so we really need to keep on time. But we couldn't do this without you guys, of course, and our sponsors. So maybe a big round of applause to our sponsors also.
Thanks, Brian. I don't know how many people here realize that this is the 70th anniversary of the LP, 1948. So there's a nice symmetry there. How many of you were here last year? Okay, so we brought in new people, and I think that sort of shows that the industry has grown, and the word of mouth of what we accomplished last year is happening this year. So the RIAA a few weeks ago came out with their mid-year report, and you can see in that second column the numbers in terms of units and in terms of value of those units. In this room we have the major distributors and pressing plants, and I leave it to you to tell us if those numbers are real or if larger. No? Much greater.
Much
greater.
Yeah, that's
right.
It's ridiculous.
Not close. Okay. So we know we're bigger than what's being reported by the mass media, basically. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael Kurtz and his panel we have to really stay on schedule. So Michael, why don't you come up with your people?
Hello. Hi, I'm Michael Kurtz. I'm with Records for Day, and this is our second year working with Making Vinyl. It's been fantastic. I think that Larry wanted me to really speak first to kind of kick off the event, and that Records for Day had so much of a part in the beginning, kicking off vinyl. Larry also likes for me to talk about how much vinyl was moved on Records for Day. It's something like about 500,000 units, which comes to about $12 million sold in one day. I kind of cringe when I think about that, because I don't like it to come down to just that. Oh, you sold a lot of stuff. I mean, in the end, it happens because of the people involved. The stores, the passion that the label people have, the artists themselves, really the artists themselves, but as much of that is you guys, the guys who actually make these records. Get kind of tingly thinking about that because it's grown into so much in the last 10 years, and that feels really good. So I want to take a moment to say thank you to all the vinyl manufacturers that are here. If you can give them a hand. I know it's not easy. So I brought a bunch of friends here to help out today. We've got Brian Burkett from the Soundgarden, Billy Fields from Warner Music, Bruce Ogilvie with Alliance Entertainment. All you guys' name starts with the letter B. No, Ryan doesn't. I don't know how you squeaked in, Ryan. But Brian from Record Store Day Canada.
We're totally not in the order you just said either. So.
Oh, really? Brian, Bruce, Billy. So they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about what their experience is within this community and where they sort of land with in their own personal universe of selling vinyl or making vinyl or distributing vinyl or making things happen that you wouldn't expect to happen that are related to vinyl. So we'll start with Brian. Brian, if you could talk a little bit about yourself and what you do and how it came to be.
Is this on? I own a record store in Baltimore called the Soundgarden. We've been doing it for about 25 years. Record Store Day started there during a meeting with all the indie record stores. That kind of looks like this meeting, except more black t-shirts. You know, in Record Store Day, vinyl has been pretty much what's kept us afloat as digital sales have dropped dramatically, and we're seeing new customers all the time. We're seeing a huge bump with younger female customers, and we're seeing the most vinyl that we're selling is coming out of hip-hop now, I mean, as far as units. And then at Christmas time, we'll sell all the catalog pieces again with Mac greatest hits and everything like that. So everything seems to be trending up. We're not, you know, the baby boomers and the Gen X people who are buying vinyl are still buying it, and then we're starting to see millennials and Generation Z buying, which is what we need.
Thanks, Brian. Ryan?
Hey guys, good morning. Once again, my name is Ryan. I'm Record Store Day Canada. Just a quick note, I started my career at Capitol Records in Canada, and then from there took over Record Store Day. And last year in Canada, the consensus across the board was we have just started. It was definitely the biggest year for Record Store Day. We had a lot of great partnerships working with the record labels and indie labels, working in tandem to create content, music, Canadian artists. We had our own Canadian ambassador, which was known as the Champions of Canada. On Record Store Day, the Mayor of Toronto did a proclamation for us and noted that every year in April, it's going to be basically a holiday now, which it already was, but now it's certified. So that was a big milestone for us. And once again, this year we're looking forward to a new chapter and even more sales. Last year we sold in less than a week almost 30,000 copies, starting on Record Store Day and then towards the end of the week. Our partnership with Nielsen was fantastic. They published the records for us and got us worldwide press, and couldn't have had a better partnership with Nielsen. So yeah, Canada's just beginning, so looking forward to next year. Cheers.
Thank you. Bruce?
Good morning. Bruce Ogilvie, Chairman of Alliance Entertainment. I've been selling and distributing vinyl since 1978 and still continue to do it today. I do have a little deck here. I don't know if you guys can bring it up here. Here's some highlights about Alliance Entertainment and Record Store Day. I'll wait for that. How are we doing back there?
Stoned.
So Alliance is a big company, distributor. We have a large facility in Shepherdsville, Kentucky. A little over 700,000 square feet. Next slide, please. And some stats about January and September for Alliance here and what we've done. So SoundScan numbers came at 6.7 million. You can see there as of 9/20. Alliance shipped 3.3 million of those units out in the marketplace there from our facility. From a new release perspective there, you can see the other stats there, 3.7 million versus 1.2 million, right around 33% market share. Next slide. Just rough numbers of our facility there. You can see in vinyl with 42,000 SKUs in stocks, 1.1 million units. It's a big risk and gamble we take because it's all non-returnable. But we wouldn't be, we're all in, all along on vinyl. We're big believers of it there. As some companies that just focused solely on CDs and didn't get in vinyl, it really hurt their business, where we always stayed in vinyl. That allowed us, as the CD has declined, to have those continued headwinds, we were able to mitigate those sales. We're also in a lot of other categories and products there too, as we try and diversify for the challenging times there. Rough square footage is 870,000 square feet with all the mezzanine level we just added over the last 3 years. Next slide, please. Just kind of a basic snapshot of our distribution facility there. Just a different angle there from where it's at there. That's one of our outbound. That's Dorner 5. We call it Dorner 5. One of our 200. This is a 200 sortation sorter for CDs and DVDs and other items. Next slide. This is how we're currently storing vinyl. Just Dewey Desk, it's basically make a random bin location, decide where to put the product. We don't mix the fast movers with the slow movers. It's just basically how much quantity. We have pallet locations, we have box lot locations, we have loose locations. And it's really important to have a barcode on every item we ever receive in our building there from a distribution standpoint there. Next slide. One of our vinyl sorters, I think we're the only guys that have a vinyl sorter in the US. This particular sorter, we just manually feed the vinyl into a tilt tray system there, reads the barcode, goes down the line, and then based upon what customer it belongs to, it's then sorted and drops in the appropriate drop. And from there it goes to our packing stations where we pack it, hand pack it in double protected cartons there, because we know UPS is going to drop the cart and there's going to be an issue. And so we've gone to a lot of extra expense and cost to make sure that it arrives at retail not damaged in any way. Next slide. Some little fun facts here. Alliance is one of the preferred suppliers. Record Store Alliance had, in 2017, we had pre-orders for 196,000 units. Actual ships were only 151 due to allocations. We would love to have shipped all 196,000 we could get our hands on there. 18, 254,000, and we shipped 225, which was percentage-wise that was better for us in 18 than 17 there. Black Friday for 17, you can see 85,000, 62,000. Black Friday Alliance received during Black Friday week 17, you can see the numbers there. Our vinyl sales have increased 15.5% year over year. So the trend and the numbers are factual there, and we're seeing that there. We do a lot of vinyl fulfillment. I remember when one of the first large major retailers got in, we were kind of concerned, how are we going to handle this? What's the indies going to think? Where's it going to come from? Michael really encouraged me. He said it's good that they're in it because it really makes the industry stronger and it's better there. And he's right. We're being very careful about how we work with large retailers so they don't somehow mess up and ruin we don't want to kill the goose that's laying the golden eggs. I don't know if you've ever been at a dealer store. They do the most amazing job promoting vinyl for a clothing retailer like they are. the pictures we get back of how they merchandise is pretty amazing there. So, next slide. This is what we don't want to see. We don't want to see a pallet stacked that high from the manufacturers. We don't really want to go higher than 54 inches. You run the risk of that pallet tipping, it'll shift. I would love to see corner guards in every pallet there, because these carriers, common carriers that haul stuff around, they really don't care how it's going around. And there's nothing worse when we get vinyl that's basically one way and we own it. I can't repair it, I can't fix it. I don't mind if a CD gets crushed or jewel case gets cracked, I can fix that. But I don't have access to any jackets or anything to fix all this product. So I just want to kind of get the message so everybody understands it there and that. Notice that there's barcodes on the outside. We can read it. We're really big in barcodes, you know. Kind of think of us, we're like Amazon, except we're nicer in the way we handle the vendors. We deal with all the problems and the headaches, but if something arrives like this, you're going to be looking at a great big huge chargeback from them, because it makes their lives miserable. So, next slide, please. This one here is not very desirable to try and receive, put away there. You know, cartons are not marked, they're on a mixed pallet, and they're missing the UCC 128s on the outside of the carton there, and there's no quantity. You know, we really need to know what's the quantity in the box, not just for faster receiving there, just so everybody can understand it there. The CD, the DVD world is much more organized, there's much more standards, they're followed, it works really well. Vinyl is kind of the wild, wild west right now. So, let's keep going. Barcodes. So you have to have a trained eye. So somebody put the CD. See that -2 there? It usually means that's the check digit there, and it doesn't match up with the right barcode has in there. That's a real showstopper for retail, and it's a showstopper for us. So we can't put it away and store it and track it and do everything we got to do unless the right barcode is on there. So we had to basically redo this barcode and reapply and fix it, and there's usually a charge when we have to do that, so it's not good for anybody. And even worse when there's no barcode when the product arrives. Next slide. We've been talking about this. I think the industry is kind of hearing us. This doesn't work in retail. You ship it out there, and you go in retail, and you go through the bins, and the racks are over stuff. In the top part, anything that defaces or damages the jacket in any way, we're selling museum pieces, believe it or not, here. Some of the stuff never gets opened up. I get constant complaints and emails and read, this arrived at this jacket split, this blemish on this corner. You know, our guys do their best of trying to catch stuff before it goes out the door. It'll arrive, it actually arrived with concealed damage inside the cartons there. It happens all the time. The industry doesn't really know what's going on. We basically kind of just suck it up and deal with it there, and we end up selling it as used, even though there's nothing wrong with the vinyl. We have to figure out a way to recover money from any type of damage vinyl comes in. Don't have to do that with CDs. Like I said, we can swap out a jewel case, DVDs, jump out the other case, makes it very easy, but vinyl is just very touchy. And it's very tough to handle through a distribution center there. Amazon puts really strict demands on any of the labels anybody ships to them. They expect everything to come in a shipper-ready carton, all ready to go. I used to think they were crazy when they asked for that, but in looking at our warehouse operations, the way our people handle, move it around, they basically, if they pull, let's say we needed 3, you know, they pull 4, and then one slips out of their hand and drops on the floor. Oops, gone. It's damaged. Now it gets sold as used. We can't ship it to retail in any way. Next slide. Love the box sets. Love the high ticket value. Hate the fact that it's not pre-wrapped in cardboard and ready to ship. God forbid these come in and get damaged in any way. Now you're talking about a $100+ box set there, has some little damage there, and boom, we got to sell it as used, and off it goes. In a perfect world, we'd love to have it come in where it has a cardboard wrapped at the manufacturing level, and it's really shipper ready and ready to send out to retail. We got to get it to retail, so it has to get there damaged. If we just put it in the box, the way it gets shipped to us, it's designed, it comes on a pallet, but if we have to turn around and reship it to a retailer, and it goes, you know, when it goes to UPS does not handle it the same way it's handled on a pallet level there where pallets are built. So yes, you put it on a pallet, yes, it looks great, but you got to think, well, how is it going to get shipped to the consumer or to the retail store? One more slide. So Michael Jackson, there's no wrapping there. Credibles is a little tough there. I hate to pick on it there. I mean, I love how you want to market sell a picture disc. It's really not going to hold up. retail store after time. It's going to get pretty shop-worn, beat up fast, and it's going to go to the used bin. I think I'm about out of slides here, and I'll stop talking here. I think that's the last slide. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So,
there were 7 things in that presentation that are my fault, apparently. Which is really great.
We're all partners here, Billy.
I'm glad we're sitting next to each other, Bruce. I would have it no other way. So Billy Fields work at the Warner Music Group, via distribution. My official title is incredibly boring, VP Sales Account Management. So what I do is I sit in New York and I oversee all of our business with independent retail, but I also sort of act as our vinyl guy in the company for our labels, for our stores, for planning, for executives on the 7th floor. I sort of spin between every access point of vinyl as a format inside of the Warner Music Group. I don't have quite as much influence outside the US as I have in the US, but I continue to work on that goal. And may have some more things along those lines in the future, maybe. Who knows? Let's see, record store day. Well, the one thing I would like to point out is that large pallet that was too high was ours. And the bad fill in 2017 was my fault.
Yes.
I'm glad we had like complete agreement. That's lovely, correct? I like it when I can hear some truth. 2018 was better. I think we did a better job of making enough that everyone wanted. Record store day. I think the heart of it for me has always been, what can I do in my position at the Warner Music Group to ensure that the independent retail community is supported and given tools to combat the rest of the stupid shit we do. So, really I act as an advocate. I act as a liaison between sort of Michael and his team, that is the buying community, the buying committee out in the market, and with our labels to come up with what we hope to be the best products, made the best way, using the best design, and delivering something that Bruce just mentioned, a museum piece. Even though I don't like the idea of it being a museum piece, because I think that if you buy a record, you should play it. But I'm a bit of a weirdo as far as that's concerned. So, you know, what we're attempting to do here is make something that continues to deliver music to a fan, but in a way that is an emotional reward and an emotional connection. Because as we all know, it's funny, you know, we're living in a digital world and we're selling physical goods in it. Digital files will go away. If electricity ends, we can at least pedal a bike and make the Victrola roll, and you can listen to music. Obviously, it was like that in the beginning, and perhaps with the course of the present world, that's what we'll get to again. So that's what records are really about. It's the beginning, it's the end. Let's make more good records, strive to make great records, and every time we fail, let's hold ourselves accountable and get better at it every day.
I don't want to give the wrong impression about Billy and we. They're one of our best suppliers. They do listen to us, and you know, sure, we have our battles, but as far as a partner, I would say we is one of our most favorite ones to work with on a vinyl perspective. So,
thank you, Bruce. So we're already solving problems. Look at this.
No, it's true. Warner Music Group is definitely one of the best partners for indie retail and this industry, because it's, there's a lot of music people there, and I'm not just saying that to try to get a free drink out of you later, Billy, but no, they've been great. Actually, they launched Record Store Day with us in the very beginning. They heard what we had, the idea that we had, and listened and made it happen. So we'll talk a little bit about how Record Store Day occurs every year. It starts with on my side of things, running the ideas that come from Billy's side, the labels and whatnot, who send it in and say, what do you think about this idea for a record? No. We get about 600 titles that are pitched to us in any given record store day, and we end up with around 350. Some of them move to Black Friday, some of them come out during the course of the year. And so on my side, we have a group of record store owners, there's about 10 of them that go through all of that information, and they're really good at what they do, and they not only run great record stores and curate that, but they also are very tech savvy, and they will use the partners that, you know, like Discogs or different sources to figure out what's been in print before, you know, what would make it really special. And so we go through that process, we get it down to a smaller list, and then that starts to get disseminated to our distribution partners on the whole, and then we do a big press launch, which leads me to the week or two before Record Store Day. I know what it's like for me. It's a lot of anxiety and because so much work has gone into it. Just like to talk a little bit to the panel here about what is that week before Record Store Day like? Are you doing press? Are you just running around trying to make sure product gets to where it's supposed to be? Are you organizing things for other people? How does it affect you personally, that kind of thing? Brian, you want to talk about what you experienced?
Those all seem like great ideas. We just, you know, we basically just keep running our record store like we normally do. We do a lot of social media, and then, I mean, you guys are shipping things from your warehouses and everything, but when we get that amount of volume just in boxes and in shipments and everything, that we just pile everything up, and then eventually prep everything for that day. Like the last day before Record Store Day for us is usually you know, an 18 to 24 hour day, just getting everything out on the shelves. And after 11 years, we kind of are getting it. We're getting better at it, and it's, you know, shorter lines and things. I mean, to give you some sort of gauge, at the Baltimore store, we'll do anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 people just buying vinyl on that day. So it's a lot of prep and a lot of having everything on the shelf and having everything priced. But it's been great, you know, and hopefully it keeps being great.
For me, there's no sleep whatsoever. It's 24 hours a day up until before we release the list up in Canada. And you know, just when you think everything is great, you get those emails from the record stores saying, I didn't get my product. It's like just fires, putting out lots and lots of fires, getting in touch and working in, like I said earlier, in tandem with the record labels, finding out what the product is. It's en route, you know, it's gonna get there, and you know, sure enough, everything works out for the most part. But and then just when you think it's all good and everything's ready, set to go, you get emails. How do I get involved in Record Store Day? I'm like, we're 3 days out, man. Like, okay, I'm with you. You have a coffee shop. I understand. There's potential, but you kind of miss the cutoff, and next thing you know, you're 21 emails in, back and forth with one person, and you gotta cut it off at some time, and you want to be respectful and let them know that Black Friday is the next one for us, and you know, you gotta cut it off and move forward. And then we were lucky enough to partner with Sirius in Canada this year, so we launched the list that way, and we had our Champions of Canada, the Sheepdogs. They were great. They got us a lot of press, and they released their albums as well on Record Store Day, and couldn't have asked for a better partner last year with them and their record label and management, Dynamo Music. And from there, just a lot of press and publicity and talking to everybody. I'll talk to anyone. You know, people call me from all over Canada and they want to talk about Record Store Day, and the main consensus I always bring to the table is that the stores have to love what they're doing, being passionate, being part of the community. It's all about the community for me. It doesn't start and end with Record Store Day. If you're open, if you're serving the community, if you have the new releases throughout the year and the back catalog and the reissues, then I want those stores a part of Record Store Day. I want them to be a part of it and get involved in the community and make sure that their constituents, their people that lined up outside their door, you know, starting in some cases at 4 a.m., some cases at 3 a.m., or I even got some pictures of tents. So people put tents outside the door to make sure they get those releases that they're looking for. And another thing is, especially when it's a new store that just opened up and they're on board, my main thing is make sure someone is there to answer the phone. You know, their stores, great. I understand you're busy enough. You don't need to answer the phone. Some stores in Canada will take their phone off the hook. But to me, how does that help the community? Hire someone, put someone, get your daughter, your son-in-law, anybody. Answer the phone and say, you know what? I can't hold the product for you, but yes, I have that Johnny Cash. It's sitting on my A-frame. I can see it. I can't hold it. If you're lucky enough to get in here and get it, great, we have it for you. Helps the community. I know the person on the other line is probably breathing really hard. I know I am. They'll run over, and if they're lucky enough to pick it up. And the other thing for me that's really important is the pledge. Getting the stores to sign the pledge and make sure that they don't break release day. They don't, you know, hold it for friends and family. They don't hold it back for their favorite customer. That's completely unacceptable in my world. It's first come, first serve. If you're happy to, you know, if you're lucky enough to find it, then all the more power to you. And if I have to stand in line and pray for that Great White album or White Snake, then everyone else has to do it too. Right? Those are my homes. And Michael, we need to talk more about like more 80s bands.
It's okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if everyone's with me, but I think David Lee Roth should be the ambassador in America, and I'm close to making him the ambassador for Canada, even though he's not Canadian, for life. So on that note, David Lee, if you're out there, we love you in Canada, and that's it for me.
Bruce?
For us, it starts with the guy that leads our team in all this is Ken Glazier, and he gets the list. He works with Michael and Carrie, and they start talking about titles and seeing whatever, and they get the list, and then our team has to go into action here and go out and get pre-orders, and in order to have what product to manufacture, what the needs are, the demand out there. That's usually 90 days before the targeted street fair, about 120 days. There's always we want to go back as early as possible. You have plenty of time. Once that's all in place and we have an idea, then we finally figure out what we're going to get. And when the product is coming in, now we have to do the allocation. We have to go through, well, we ordered 5,000, we only got 3,000. So Wes Lowe, who works for Ken, I've literally seen him do it. He'll spend 4, 5, 6 hours or more the night they decide to make, okay, this is all we're going to get. We need to start our picking process. And as the product is arriving and coming in, we basically take a large section of our warehouse and set up all these pallets, and there'll be like 325 different pallets on the floor, and then boxes of the titles all sitting in those pallet locations, preparing for the pick. Once the allocation is done, then the orders can be released, and then we'll make waves of anywhere like 108 stores per wave, and they will then go pull that product for that particular wave for the stores on that wave. And then now it has to be picked and sorted and boxed and then invoiced. And then it's all staged and ready to go. And for the most part, we hear very little issues where it arrived, where the product was damaged in any way. You know, we've had many years of this, so every year we're always trying to refine the process to make sure that none of the product arrives damaged. And then about 8 days later, 9 days later, as the product arrives, every year the reports are always bigger and better than the time before. Just when you think it can't get any better, it gets better. And Ken and his team rounds up all the reports from all the retail there, and then he shares it with the industry, and it's a lot of fun stuff to read there and hearing with the retailers. You're generally all exhausted, worn out, there's so much work, the line was all the way from here to there. It's quite a day when that all happens there.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, you're talking just about the week before, right?
A week or two, whatever. You can stretch it out a little longer if you want.
So in year 9, it actually got pretty smooth. Last year was definitely the smoothest year that we've had yet, but it is the allocation cascade. So myself, there's a couple guys at ADA in New York that have to do the same thing. We gather all these orders that come in for all the fine products that many of you make for us. Thank you very much. And we allocate and we figure out how best to be equitable and fair, which I failed in 2017. Just saying, sorry about that again, Bruce. And 2018 got much better at it. I think we worked it out. And then the wholesale community has to do the same thing. But I think that the last couple weeks leading in, because by that time, for the most part, allocations are complete. Plans are laid. Promotions are set up, everything's in place. Our team knows what they're going to do. They're out and interface with stores, they're going to be in stores, going to be buying records, talking to people in line, and having a nice party of it. We're dealing with, hey, we got 10 of this item that you have no more stock of and 5 are damaged, I need them replaced. So then we get to figure out how to do that. Usually there are anywhere from 5 to 12 instances of that happening every year. I just made that number up, but it's pretty representative for our company. It's a handful, it's not a lot. And it's this, Bruce mentioned this earlier, you know, it goes to UPS, and then it's in God's hands, because that's what happens. That's really what that's about, that last bit of leading into it is that. But I just want to take a moment to say that I ponder often how much not just independent retail and frankly the music business has benefited from the fact that vinyl has come back over these last now 11, going into the 12th year. The number of people that we've been able to basically keep employed and gainfully employed, teaching new skills, learning new tasks, all across the chain of what we're doing. So while all love and respect should be given to Michael and Brian and his team of knuckleheads that came up with the idea back in 2007, we all finally got involved on the label side, majors and indies, and I should say this too, independent labels have been making records the entire time that the majors weren't, right? So a lot of you cats, yeah, absolutely. Making records for them when we were like, it's a niche thing, we don't really want to be involved. And then we got involved. Actually, I saw Mason Williams. He and I spent many a day when he was at Rhino and David, trying to convince people to put out great records. And it was a fucking bitch. And now we are this many years later, and it's not just people in stores, but it's people in your plants, people at your pressing facilities, designers, musicians, the whole 9 yards. This is some crazy shit that we pulled off in plain sight. It's taken a lot of time, but fuck it, I want to say thank you to all you guys, because without you making records, we wouldn't be doing this.
How many of you guys worked in record stores? Well, I have a lot of employees that have been with me for like 20 years, and if anybody would like to hire any of them, well, we can hand out resumes for some of them, because, you know, working in a record store and, you know, working in vinyl manufacture and everything, you know, it's just like people are doing this because they love to do it. They love, you know, they love being in the business, and it's great to see like a whole nother business develop from, you know, what we're still doing. And it's great to see how many people are working at it and still in the music business, man. It's awesome.
I like to echo that, in that when we first started Record Store Day, early on, the thought struck me that this could work in other countries, and we had sort of a communication with the UK. And then we organized a meeting in London, I think it was in 2009, or late 2008. And people who had just reached out to me and said, hey, I'd like to do what you're doing in the Netherlands and Germany and Spain and different countries, all came on their own dime. We all sat in a hotel room, and they all looked at me like, okay, tell us how we got to do this. And I just said, well, do you want to do it? And they're like, yeah, we really want to do it. And I said, okay, you're Record Store Day France, you're Record Store Day UK. And it just sort of happened, but it was because all these guys all these people were very much what Brian just described. They did it because they loved it, and it was really important to them. Record Store Day didn't launch like we knew, with a plan, like we knew what we were going to do or how it was going to roll out. But it's hard to explain how something just happens on its own and everybody comes into it because they feel like they own it, it's theirs. Certainly that was true for the vinyl manufacturing plants. You guys had already been doing it. It was your passion. You've been around for a long time and doing this art. And then we just came in and played our part to say, okay, let's celebrate it. And it exploded without a plan. It was just because people were passionate about it.